Good afternoon and welcome to the 2023 Defense Logistics Agency Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is Emma Edmiston and I will be your mistress of ceremony for today's event. Please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the rendering of honors, the singing of our national anthem by Ms. Shauna James, and the invocation by DLA Chaplain Colonel Thomas Brooks.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's pray. Lord, we ask that you would bless this ceremony for the encouragement and inspiration of all here. And we thank you for the privilege we all hold to be part of such an inspiring mission to support our nation and its warfighters in significant and history-changing ways. We thank you for each person who exercises daily faithfulness, integrity, diligence, and loyalty to the mission in making this happen as dedicated professionals. We give thanks for those who will be recognized at this event who have distinguished themselves through excellence, in some cases by overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles and inscrutable problem sets in order to get the mission done. We acknowledge that our time, our energy, our gifts and talents are a gift from you, and we ask that you would help us to responsibly exercise these gifts for the good of others, to include our nation. Grant ever greater degrees of perseverance, a sense of belonging and teamwork and commitment, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. A special welcome to our host, Vice Admiral Michelle Skubic, Director of the Defense Logistics Agency. Also, our Hall of Fame inductees, their families, and their friends, distinguished visitors, DLA senior leaders, and employees of DLA. Today, we honor former members of the DLA team who demonstrated unique and enduring contributions in support of our mission. Their contributions helped shape DLA into America's premier combat logistics support agency, a mission that we all proudly execute. They are true representatives of the DLA spirit. This year's inductees are Kay Bushman, former senior counsel, DLA Energy. Alma Charles, former supplier operations division chief, DLA Aviation. Thomas Daly, former deputy director of subsistence, DLA Troop Support. David Falvey, former executive director, program executive officer, DLA Information Operations. Major General Mark Johnson, United States Air Force, retired, former director, DLA Logistics Operations. John Kurtz, former director, DLA Distribution Finance, DLA Distribution. These inductees here today will receive a medal, a commemorative plaque, a congratulatory letter from the DLA director, and a DLA Hall of Fame lapel pin. In addition, each inductee's designated loved ones will receive a certificate of appreciation. Please join me in watching a special presentation highlighting the lives and the careers of this year's Hall of Fame class. Our host for today's ceremony, Vice Admiral Skubik, directs an organization responsible for providing a variety of logistics, acquisition, and technical services to the military services and other federal agencies in peace and in war. This worldwide mission is performed by over 26,000 military and civilian personnel in logistics. Please welcome the DLA Director, Vice Admiral Skubik.
Whew, I haven't seen this many people in here in years. Thank you for filling the seats on such a great day. And welcome to our 2023 DLA Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And it's a very special day. Wonderful to celebrate another DLA Hall of Fame class. Today we'll induct 6 more high-achieving former teammates bringing the total number of Hall of Fame inductees to 143. We should also recognize that it's a significant milestone. This tradition was first established by one of my predecessors, Lieutenant General Glisson, in 1998, making this our silver anniversary, 25 years of DLA Hall of Fame. And if I'm counting correctly, I think this is my fourth. Because of the pandemic, we had to adjust somewhat and had to do 2 virtual ceremonies in 2020 and then in 2021. And so last year was our first kind of hybrid in-person event, and now today we are in full force. So again, thanks for being here. And that also means that I've had the distinct honor of inducting 26 new members into the Hall of Fame. And it's an honor that gives me great pride and a whole lot of pleasure. So thanks for the introduction, Emma, appreciate it. And thanks for serving as our MC today. I also want to say thank you to Chaplain Brooks and to our very own Ms. Shauna James for her amazing rendition of the national anthem. So thank you both. And also, plenty of thanks is deserved by our J1 team under Ms. Sharon Saunders. Thank you for coordinating today's event. Always takes a whole lot of effort behind the scenes, as well as Ms. Gwen Adams and the whole protocol team. So thank you for always making these such a world-class event for, candidly, a world-class agency. Thanks very much. We have several distinguished guests in the audience today. And there's a whole lot of you, and you're all, around various places, so I'm going to try to find you in the crowd. But the Honorable Joseph Falvey, Jr., Judge, U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims here in the Washington, D.C. area. So, Judge, I don't know how you got off the docket today, but thank you for being here. He's the brother of one of our inductees, Mr. Dave Falvey. So thanks for being here, Judge. Our Vice Director, Mr. Brad Bunn. Always appreciate my fellow triad members at the helm here of leadership, him and Command Sergeant Major here on the dais with me. Thank you both always for your incredible support and leadership of our agency. We also have our Chief of Staff, Mr. Eric Smith, and his team was responsible for putting so much of today together as far as the installation goes as well, so thank you. And we also have one of my predecessors in a couple of areas. Vice Admiral Keith Lippert, retired, where are you? He's right there in front of me. He's our 14th DLA director, and he was also the 41st Chief of the Navy Supply Corps, so I've been fortunate to follow in his footsteps in those seats. And I would say unequivocally, he always left the place better than he found it. Thank you, sir. We also have Lieutenant General retired Mitchell Stevenson, former U.S. Army Deputy Chief of Staff, G4. General Stevenson? There he is over there. Thank you very much. Good to have you, sir. And Ms. May DeVincentis, did May make it? There you are. Former Vice Director, good to see you. And also May is a Hall of Famer herself from 2014. There are other Hall of Fame inductees, so alums, and once a Hall of Famer, always a Hall of Famer. Ms. Dorothy Lohr, where are you at? She may not have made it. Okay, Mary Studevant. Over there. Thank you, Mary. Susan Van Meter. Okay, she's here in spirit. Larry Wilson. Over here. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Tony Paleo, our former CFO. Where's Tony? Right there. It's a little bright up here. I need a helmet. And we also have several of our MSC commanders, several of our senior executive service across our J codes. So thank you all for coming to support your inductees. And we also have one very special guest today whose roots truly go back to the beginning of this agency. So for those who don't know, this building, DLA headquarters, is named after our very first director, Lieutenant General Andrew McNamara. And so his son is here today, Lieutenant Colonel retired Bill McNamara. So right there. Raise your hand. Thank you for being here, sir. And Lieutenant Colonel McNamara is also the uncle of one of our inductees today, Major General Johnson. So thank you for being here in support, and thank you for your family's legacy with this agency. And speaking of, as we all know, behind every successful career is a strong support system, and that is the family and the friends and the teammates. And so I think today is about that support system and that team and that family and friends as much as it is about the inductees. I dare say they would admit that. So thank you to the families that are here today, as well as those who will watch later on the video if you couldn't make it. But you've helped make today possible by supporting your loved ones through their career. And so for all of our visitors today, thanks for making it a special day. We have some stories to tell. A wise sage, Booker T. Washington, once said, "Success always leaves footprints." As the nation's combat logistics support agency, DLA, without a doubt, has to always be innovative, adaptable, agile, and accountable, focused on the warfighter always. And if you want to know whose indelible footprints are all over this high-performing agency, you can start with the chronicles of the DLA Hall of Fame. Our impeccable reputation, earned over nearly 62 years of outstanding support to the warfighter and our nation, can be attributed to these remarkable individuals and many like them. Whatever successes we achieve today, whatever insights, whatever innovations, can be said that it traces back to such legacies as our Hall of Fame attendees today. The Hall of Fame was intended to honor and recognize those who built exemplary careers and contributed to our agency's legacy of excellence. And this tradition serves a secondary purpose as well, and that's to inspire all of us, those of us who continue to support our mission day to day, as well as to attract the future workforce for our agency. And it is, in a sense, a blueprint for success, or perhaps footprints, if you will. We're very proud of the DLA Hall of Fame class of 2023. Our recipients represent a really good cross-section of our agency and what we do. We have representatives from 4 of our major subordinate commands and 2 of our J-code directorates. And together, their combined service at DLA amounts to a total of 132 years. That's remarkable. An impressive amount of experience, especially when you consider the quality of their service during their careers. And the stories of our Hall of Famers remind us of what selfless service is all about. Ms. Kay Bushman served in the DLA Energy Office of Counsel for over 3 decades as a compassionate mentor, a talented mediator, a masterful negotiator. She provided sound legal and business advice that senior leaders could trust when making their most important decisions. Ms. Alma Charles provided exemplary service to our warfighters over a 40-year DLA aviation career, the old-fashioned way, through leadership, expertise, and building bridges with customers and suppliers. And I can personally attest to how positively she affected leaders who still serve today. Thanks, Alma. I'm one of them. Mr. Thomas Daly retired as the DLA Troop Support Subsistence Deputy Director after a 36-year career serving in leadership positions touching on multiple supply chains. Some of his contracting innovations are still in use today. Mr. David Falvey, where are you, David? There you are, was our Program Executive Officer during the modernization of its key business systems, our key business systems, which were foundational to the agency's continued logistics excellence. You might say you're one of the fathers of today's digital business transformation initiative. Major General retired Mark Johnson. He served as the commander of DLA Aviation from 2013 to 2015, where he led efforts to significantly improve material availability and logistics support. And he returned to our agency in 2017 as the Director of Logistics Operations, known as J3, where he spearheaded organizational and technical innovations that greatly enhanced our support to the warfighter's readiness. And I would say he was a great shipmate when I was at Land and Maritime, trusted and supportive. And Mr. John Kurtz, while serving as director of the DLA Distribution Finance from 2006 to 2016, John effectively led his team through the development and implementation of innovative financial strategies and tactics to support the ever-evolving global distribution enterprise. So thank you to all of you. You are indeed awe-inspiring to me and all of our teammates here, as are all 143 of the DLA Hall of Fame inductees. You're the leaders and the pathfinders and the innovators and the visionaries who raise the bar for all of us. And your contributions have led to the growth of this agency and have challenged us to be better every day. Along with my thanks to the inductees, I also just want to take a second to thank every member of our DLA agency for your unsurpassed, unparalleled, unequivocally critical support to our warfighters around the globe 24/7. No matter what job you have in DLA, whether it's more of an inward-looking, supporting a team to get the mission done every day, or outward-looking, supporting the warfighters and the customers around the globe every day. Every one of those jobs is so absolutely critical in support of our nation's warfighters. And the work of our nation's military never stops, and therefore, neither does ours. And so I am so grateful, no matter what the challenge, this team always steps up, often before asked. And I'm impressed, and I'm honored to be able to serve with each and every one of you. So thanks for what you do. Thanks to our inductees for the legacy you've left us, the footprints, so to speak, that we will follow and continue to strive to be our best every day. So let's get on to some stories, Emma, and thank you all for being here. Warfighter always. Thanks.
At this time, it is my privilege to introduce the DLA's Hall of Fame class of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ms. Kay Bushman. Ms. Kay Bushman was a highly respected and accomplished attorney and deputy director at DLA Energy, who served from 1985 to 2015. She was known for expertise, leadership, and dedication to the mission. She handled legal issues related to fuel storage and delivery, mentored and mediated others, and took on challenging projects. She also served as the Deputy Director for the Fuels Accounting System Information Technology Project from 1998 to 2001. Ms. Bushman retired from DLA Energy in 2015 after 3 decades of dedicated service. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Kay Bushman.
Thanks to Vice Admiral Skubik, Gabby Earhart, and all the others who nominated me at the DLA Energy, and all of those who organized this event. I know these things do not happen by themselves. I also want to especially thank my colleagues in our legal office. I expected Howard. I don't know if Louise is here. I know Kathleen couldn't make it. Chris, and I was hoping Kim was here also. And then thanks to all my DLA Energy friends and colleagues who are able to attend. I really appreciate this. Thanks to my husband, Ram, and my girls, Sheila and Leela, also for making the effort here. I am overwhelmed by this honor. I was reviewing the former inductees into the DLA Hall of Fame and looked at who had been inducted earlier from DLA Energy, the ones I knew, and also our DLA legal office. And I worked for them all. Ed Biddle, Don Peshka, who's here today, Catherine Fantasia, Richard Connolly, General Bickford, General Reno, and from the legal office, starting at the very beginning, Carl Kabeisman, who was our chief counsel when I was hired, Bruce Baird, who I worked under also, Walt Thomas, and Gil Perkins. it's sort of like going to the university and realizing that you have been taught by 12 Nobel Prize winners. I feel that sense of all of those who have gone before me. Now, I was reflecting on my 30-year career at DLA Energy through its various name changes. I was hired in 1985 at the Defense Fuel Supply Center in Old Cameron Station, for many of those who know that, by Carl Kabeisman, who is the chief counsel of DLA and one of the first inductees into the DLA Hall of Fame. At the time, I was a refugee from a large Chicago law firm looking for meaningful work, and I found it. I found more than that, though. I found generous colleagues in the legal office. I found dedicated contracting officers. I found environmentalists, engineers, quality specialists, logistics experts, financial gurus, military fuel and supply officers. I found a place where everyone understood the mission to supply fuel and never run out, and where people worked together in a very collegial setting and had fun at events too, such as the Energy Picnic. And I also found the Andrews Sisters. My role as a lawyer has evolved over the years, though. Providing sound legal advice was always at the core. But you can't be a good lawyer if you don't have good clients. You may think that's a joke, but if your clients don't trust you and don't take your legal advice, you gain nothing. I also understood that contracting was a hard job. So the primary focus is always on problem solving. What did the contracting officer want to do? How could I help to achieve that goal? What other options were available? And this applied to everyone I worked with in DLA. I was fortunate to have worked for DLA Energy during its transformation from a buying center to a fuel and energy management agency. Change was constant, and with change came opportunity. And I worked in almost all areas of DLA Energy, and that gave me a breadth of knowledge and experience that I could apply to help my clients. And the need to solve new problems led to interesting work, which is always fun. I'll give you just a few examples. We had a lot of fuel cleanups at our fuel terminals due to tighter environmental laws, especially in the early 1990s. But these cleanups were done by the Corps of Engineers as construction projects, and they were slow and they were expensive and they weren't very responsive to the regulators. So I suggested we do them as service contracts and we take them in-house and we use our own environmental expertise and our own contracting expertise to do these cleanups. And we did, and they were cheaper and faster and better, and we gained credibility with the regulators who are always pushing us to do more. There's another example where we took over the mission of missile fuels from the Air Force. Nobody in the agency knew anything about missile fuels. But Sharon Murphy, another DLA Hall of Famer, signed up to take on that mission. And I signed up to do the legal work for that mission. One of the things Sharon needed was long-term contracting authority for a hydrazine contract. So I worked with her on a legislative proposal to get that authority, and we were very successful. One of the major projects I worked on was we had a very poor piece of legislation ostensibly dealing with tar sands, but it had implications for our fuel buying. And I knew we were going to get sued over that piece of legislation because it was sponsored by the Sierra Club, and they were going to be very unhappy with the way we implemented that law. So I proposed with one of our quality specialists that we needed to write a report. We needed to get some expertise, get that report in place with a strategy of how we were going to implement this law. And I was right, we did get sued by the Sierra Club. But because we had planned ahead and understood the risk, we had a report and we prevailed in that lawsuit. But I couldn't have done it without cooperation from the environmentalists. We had to get our leadership on board that that was the way to deal with this problem. One of the most memorable things that I did was the famous Manas, Kyrgyzstan story. So I was asked to go to Kyrgyzstan to deal with some tax issues. There's huge international tax issues dealing with fuel because we buy worldwide. The government has many treaties in which we're supposed to be tax exempt, but ultimately these countries want their tax and it flows through their system, and they're not set up to really sell us fuel tax free. But it became a very great headache in Manas. So my boss called me up at 10 o'clock at night one day. I was down in the basement helping my husband put some venting in for a new water heater that we were trying to install. And so Louise calls me up and says, hey, I've got an interesting project for you. Would you like to go to Kyrgyzstan? I said, oh, sure, I never traveled internationally for work, but I said, I'm always interested in doing something new. Tell me more about why I would be going. So she describes this little thing about the taxes and somebody from DOD and how it's a big problem. And I hadn't worked on this issue very much before, although I did work on international tax issues. So at the end of this little 10-minute discussion, I said, oh, that sounds great. When do I have to go? She goes, tomorrow. I go, okay, I guess I better start packing. And I did not have a DOD passport. I had a regular passport. So they're hustling to get me this passport and, you know, make the arrangements and get the flights. And now I'm on a team of 4, and getting to Manas is not easy. You know, it's 3 flights and more than 24 hours. And we get there, and I'm looking forward to a nap, but no, we are immediately in working. I think we were there 3 days. I think I got to sleep in that nice bed for 6 hours, but we were just working and working and working. And we ultimately managed to reach an agreement so that we could avoid the taxes and handle the problem a different way. But I went with who was then Air Force Colonel Frank Reckner, and we bonded over that forever. That was a great example. There are many other interesting things I worked on in my career. There was the Jet A conversion where we went from JP4 to commercial fuel. We had implemented a card program for small purchases of fuel at gas stations and airports so that we could make payment faster and get better prices on our fuel. Speaking of Dave Foley, I ended up being deputy to what was then the fuel accounting system. And I have no background in technology. I had no background in that, but they wanted somebody who knew the business and could manage it. And I ended up doing that for 3 years, although that project almost killed me. But I worked with Bill Robinson on that. And we came to be very, very good friends as a result of that. But there are so many people here I've worked for, I couldn't even begin to discuss all of them. And I could go on, but I won't. But all in all, I never forgot who I was working for. So thank you again for this honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next inductee to the stage, Alma Charles. Ms. Alma Charles was a division chief of the Aviation Commodities Division at DLA Aviation Supplier Operations Directorate. She started as an inventory management specialist in 1972 and retired in 2011. She was known for her leadership skills, supply expertise, operational experience, and dedication to the warfighter and the defense industrial base. She improved weapon system readiness throughout DoD by enhancing industry and supplier partnerships. She also promoted change, diversity, inclusion, and equality within her organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Alma Charles.
All praises to God that I made it here today. I didn't think after Saturday I was going to be able to make it, but I made it. To Vice Admiral Michelle Skubic, that we shared at Defense Logistics Aviation in Richmond. I'm excited about seeing Vice Admiral Keith Lippert here today. It's made my day. Also served with him. To Mr. Bunn and I believe it's Mr. Smith that I see, a part of Admiral Skubic's staff. I thank you for allowing us to be here today. I also give recognition and thank you to, I haven't had the opportunity to meet him yet, but the Defense Logistics Agency Aviation Brigadier General Sean Tyler, the commander, and Mr. Charles Lilly, the deputy commander at Aviation. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Floyd Moore. They sent me a message, that's like a son to me. They got the ball rolling on the write-up. And today, he's becoming a graduate tomorrow with a 4.0. He's a genius in his own right. And I used to say when we were working, nobody knew contracting like Floyd Moore, and he could make it happen. I'd like to thank Miss Mariah White, who initially back in 2011 started a write-up, and it came on through with Althea Roberts, Dee Hart, even my daughter, Ashley Charles, Gus Lagon, trying to get numbers because I've been retired since 2011. And I had just gotten rid of my original file that I kept, OPM file for all my salt, just little nice things. So to know what was happening in my life.
She stored it safely.
And the list could go on with the thank yous. I see a lot of legacy in the audience today that were at Aviation. Now, mind you, I went through, served under 13 commanders, directors at headquarters and 25 commanders at DLA Aviation, and a bunch of name changes. So you know the history goes way back. I wanted to bring one of the products that I started off my career with as an intern. I went in 72 as the first Black supply operations inventory management specialist. And my career began 10 years after that of Defense Secretary Robert S. McNamara establishing the operational beginning of DSA, Defense Supply Agency. So that's dating me in age. My focus over 40 years in government service was to support the warfighter, because the warfighter kept us safe day by day, and we needed to have equipment on hand and in a timely order. And down through the years, that product I was talking about, I wanted to bring, but my daughter said, "Mom, it's not show and tell." Was the Big M study that we had to calculate the requirements that the warfighter needed wherever it was around the country, and the little referral cards that we had to work on and then pass them on in a stack, and data punching or key punching would process them in the system. I thank God because when I came in as a GS5, I was only making like $5,678 a year. Look at God. Look where he brought us from. Because you know most of us out here, that's just a tip in the nowadays living that we are working in. I started working with paper and pencil. And I said, what have I gotten myself into? There has got to be a change, Automation brought us in the agency into the 21st century, and I could go on about being committed to support the warfighter. Because as a supervisor in inventory management, when you have to sit and review a certain dollar value of those studies, we call them studies, and you got a stack on your desk, and everybody wants your attention. But one of the things that I found, the agency helped me grow in leadership skills and sensitivity to develop positive morale amongst the workforce. When you're dealing with people, diverse personalities, there's a lot on your shoulders. And some of those that worked for me as item managers or worked in ESOC or the supply parks, they understood you don't need to come to my office with a problem unless you got a solution. Because you can talk about the problem all day long, but if you don't have a solution, then you haven't done anything. You just discovered something, but you don't know what it is that you've discovered. So we were able to get along in that particular environment. The workforce doing their job is the reason I stand here today. Working together as a unit makes teamwork happen. Respect, positive role models, fellowship, all work and no play makes Jane a dull girl. Camaraderie, get the job done. And I celebrate those who made today possible, the workforce. And I say thank you, and I celebrate you and salute you today. And I want to leave with those that are still employed in the agency. I've been in an active pastorate as a minister going into 20 years. And I thank my AME Zion Church family, but particularly the St. Paul AME Zion Church family. My mom passed 97 years of age. If she were still here, and she just passed in 2021, she would be here today saying, look at my baby girl, she did it. And then my pop, special people. My children, you see on the stage, my armor bearers, my road dogs, my partners. We stay together, and I thank God that God has given them learning. I have one in the medical science field, doing an excellent job. He can diagnose anything, but I try to encourage him to go on and get that RN because traveling nurses make a lot of money now. Make a lot of money. You got to take care of mama. And then my daughter works here at DLA now. She was at Richmond, and when you're moving up, you got to be humble. You got to be humble, keep your mind focused. I could tell you war stories about all of the items that we managed in commodities. I started out on pallets, and pallets were a bear back then to keep in stock. Then we had cylinders and gases, ecclesiastical equipment, mortuary equipment. I think I shared with someone about having to get up 11:30 at night and go on base to find the body bags that needed to go to Guyana during the Jim Jones crisis. Now, what was so hard about that when DDRV, that's a part of DLA, was right there on the base? Why couldn't you find it? It's simply a process. You got one or two items, which meant the liner should have been folded in to the bag. Don't get all the way over in the country and said, oh, we don't have everything we need. For those of you that have been around cylinders and gases, you know that they are not an easy commodity. Then came barons, and the list goes on. But we held on, simply because I had a good workforce. And the agency helped me grow in leadership skills and sensitivity to that workforce, as I said. But as I get ready to take my seat, remember this, grow in wisdom. knowledge and understanding. And above all, get understanding. But you got to stay focused in this environment on your knowledge, skills, and abilities. It's a must to get the job done. Get plenty of rest. Take care of self. I'm reminded, and I don't know how true the story is, I saw on TikTok about Jamie Foxx making a new film. And he was 8 episodes out, and he has had a major stroke. You got to learn how to take care of self. Spend some time doing your thing. It doesn't matter whether it's golfing or cruising or flying from country to country. Take care of self. Because when you take care of self, then you can take care of the workforce. And do the best that you can in whatever you do. And I thank you for the nomination, and I thank you for having the opportunity to be here and to share with you today. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next inductee to the stage, Thomas Daly. Mr. Daly was a visionary leader in federal acquisition and supplier relations for 36 years. He retired in 2016 as the DLA Troop Support Subsistence Deputy Director, managing the worldwide food supply chain for the military. He also held various positions in DLA Troop Support and its legacy organizations, overseeing pharmaceuticals, industrial hardware, and contract policies. He was genuine, optimistic, approachable to everyone. He led by example and always supported his workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thomas Daly.
Admiral Skubic, thank you for hosting this event, and thank you for selecting me for this honor. I'm extremely grateful and honored to receive this recognition, so thank you. I'd also like to thank Brigadier General Shirley, the commander of DLA Troop Support, and his command team of Kashara Lambert, Bill Kenny, and Bob Ratner for nominating me. I certainly appreciate that, and it was nice. I'd like to thank some of the people who came from Philly down here. My partner, Sue, who for years wondered what I did for a living, so maybe she'll find a couple things out today. Gary Shifton, one of my friends and co-workers in Subsistence, who is now the Deputy Director of Subsistence, came down. And Mr. Bill Kenny. Bill is the Acquisition Executive at DLA Troop Support, and Bill and I have known each other for many years. So thank you all for making that trip down to Philly. It's nice being back here. I didn't think I'd ever be back in this building once I retired, but it's nice being back and seeing some familiar faces. Excuse me a minute. Yeah. Well, anyway, lost my train of thought. But it is nice seeing some of the familiar faces. But I think today will be a little different than my last few trips down here. I feel pretty confident today that I'm not going to leave here with an action item. So I hope that's the way it turns out. I spent my entire career at DLA Troop Support in Philadelphia in various offices and directorates. And I started in the Industrial Hardware Directorate, and in fact, that's where I got my first supervisory position. And I remember that position today. It was a position that managed fasteners, and not just any fasteners. It was nuts and washers. It was primarily nuts. And At that time, our public affairs office used to publish a newsletter that would announce current events and any recent promotions. And the newsletter that came out after I was promoted to that job was, it came out, and I still see it this day. There's my picture on the front page with these big, bold headlines that said, "Daily named head of nuts." Which I'm surprised that wasn't up there today. I mean, it was a great job, but it did give new meaning to the phrase nut job. After industrial hardware, I spent time in the procurement management office, in the medical directorate, and in the subsistence directorate. And I witnessed throughout every job I had, I witnessed DLA troop support employees do amazing things. They developed and implemented acquisition strategies and logistic solutions that provided the customer exactly what they needed, when they needed it, at the best price. They also would do anything that was necessary to deliver the best supply chain solution in support of the warfighter. They were an amazing group of people, and in every stop along the way, I learned something. I'd also like to give a special shout out to the folks in subsistence. That's where I spent the last 12 years of my career. And I can tell you without a doubt that that time in subsistence was probably the most challenging yet rewarding time of my career. It was an amazing time to actually work there. In subsistence, I was fortunate to work on a team that provided food and feeding equipment to our nation's military and government partners throughout the world, including Iraq and Afghanistan, that at the time had some heightened attention, as you can remember. It was a different time back then, but it was very hectic, but the people in subsistence really stepped up to the plate and got the job done. They were an amazing and talented group of people who were truly dedicated to their jobs. I am so very proud to have been part of that team and proud of what we accomplished. You know, when I was preparing my remarks, the first thing I did, I said, you know, I need to write down the names of people who had an impact on my career, the leaders, the managers, some of my subordinates, my team players. And I started writing names down and writing. And the list got so long. So in the interest of time, and you'd be happy to know, I'm not going to read that list. Suffice it to say that I owe a debt of gratitude to a lot of people. And I thank all of them. And some of them I still do see when I go back to the command every now and then. So, and there's some people down here at the headquarters. There were a lot of, I will tell you this, the headquarters staff that I interacted with was very supportive. And we probably could not have done the job without them. So finally, throughout my career, I always felt that I was part of a team, and any accomplishment that I was associated with was actually team accomplished. I did not do this alone. So this honor is not just for me. It's for all the teams that I had an opportunity to be part of in recognition of their hard work. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I will tell you this much, that DLA is and has always been a top-class organization, and I was very fortunate to have had the opportunity to be part of it for so many years. Thank you all. That's what that practice was for earlier.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next inductee to the stage, Mr. David Falvey. Mr. Falvey was a key leader in transforming DLA's business practices and IT systems from 1998 to 2010. He envisioned, developed, and implemented the enterprise business systems programs that improved DLA's logistics performances and efficiency. He was responsible for fielding the business system modernization, DoD's largest and most successful enterprise resource planning system. BSM enabled DLA to offer more on-scene support to our customers worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Falvey.
Thank you, Admiral Skubik, Sergeant Major. Mr. Bunn, hadn't had a chance to say hello to you yet. And Admiral Lippert, thanks for being here. And one other person I'd like to acknowledge is the gentleman that has been a big part of my life the last 10 years as a boss, and that is General Stevenson. So thank you, General. It is true honor to be here with all of you. As you've heard the theme about keeping this brief, it comes to mind that my favorite quote about being brief in these sort of events is the one from FDR. And he said that it is important to be sincere, be brief, and be seated. So that's my goal. And since we only have a few short minutes to thank our hosts and the people that had a lot to do with my limited success in my career. So I see this as an opportunity to go by and acknowledge these people that really showed me the way and were a big part of my career. I could have never have imagined that in 1998, when I arrived at DLA, that I would attend the Hall of Fame ceremony. And to think that I might be here, in the future was just not fathomable to me. So I admired DLA when I was in the Navy and felt I had the best job in DOD when I arrived here. And it was a challenging time. If you remember the decade before this one, we had a time marked by 9/11. We had the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we had a historic increase in DLA workload all happening at the same time. Yet the leaders at the time saw the need to update our systems to be able to cope with that workload and with those challenges. And notably, Admiral Lippert was a main push, and he pushed for that sort of achievement. And it was very useful and rewarding to have him be my boss for the majority of what happened during the systems modernization. I also want to thank the J6 team. It was led by May DeVincentis and Ted Case. And I had colleagues such as Larry Wilson, Steve Shertock, and Jim Kimberly, who I thank today for letting me be a small part of our enterprise process. And we had a lot of late night meetings making this all happen. We used to call them seances. So I'm looking forward to having a seance later today where alcoholic beverages will be served. I also have several individuals that were in the PEO organization, and there's a few here, but mostly aren't here, but they certainly were the gas behind the Dave Falvey mechanism. People like Vic Janitis, Barry Hutchinson, Bill Tinston, and there was a skilled cadre of military deputies that worked for me and program managers, such as Patricia Whittington, who I saw today, Paul Peters, Colonel Pat Flanders. There were just a number of them that couldn't have really made this journey palatable for somebody like me. So to name a few, those are the people that reminds me of the great time and the challenging time. And I'm losing my spot here, but the main thing is that I was given a team and leaders that allowed me to meet the challenges and get the things done. And nowhere in the world could I have there's no way I could have imagined that I would be as successful as I was. So I thank you for that. So to keep this short, I want to close with a quote from George Patton, of all people. And that quote was that the officer who does not know his lines of communication and does not know his supply and logistics as well as tactics is totally useless. So it's not a stretch that today this quote speaks to the importance of IT to logistics in winning the fight and accomplishing the mission. Thanks again for this honor to be a small part of the DLA legacy. Thank you, one and all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next inductee to the stage, Major General Mark Johnson, United States Air Force, retired. Major General Johnson was the director of DLA Logistics Operations, who improved readiness and collaboration for the military services. He led innovations such as the Agency Synchronization Operations Center and the Readiness Dashboard that integrated business and operational information. He also spearheaded DLA's government support in response to the unprecedented 2017 hurricane season that saw 3 storms make landfall on U.S. soil within 30 days. All right, and I got a little extra special something here for you, sir. Mrs. Johnson couldn't be here today for the ceremony, but would like to share a few special words in honor of her husband. It reads, Mark, I wanted somehow to share this day with you, Kevin and Whitney, Uncle Bill and Jay. So please know that your mom and I are here in Indy sending our love and congratulations for this wonderful honor. You are an amazing airman, loved by everyone who ever worked with you during your 32 incredible years with the United States Air Force. They all saw a good man who truly loves his family and his country. We are also proud of you. You know Granddad is smiling down at you from heaven, probably while dancing the Love Shack. Congrats to my best friend, Candy. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Mark Johnson.
Well, that got me off the checklist right away. I don't know how to follow that. Admiral Skubik, Command Sergeant Major, Mr. Bunn, my Hall of Fame classmates now. Thanks so much for this opportunity to be here with you. And I'll try and be brief and listen to advice of those ahead of me. But I do need to recognize that sweet woman who wrote that note. We've been together 27 years, and she's doing God's work in Indianapolis today. I would love to have her sitting in that front row because that's where I get confidence. And I'm a little weak on that today. So I appreciate everything she does for us and our family, and I'm thankful for all of that. I do want to say thanks to my son, Kevin, and his wife, Whitney. Thanks for being here. And Whitney, for all those pictures that you're sending. You know, I know that Candy's thankful for that. Please know how much we love and appreciate you guys. My son, Brian, and his wife, Shelly, and their new daughter, Mabry, down in Alabama. They couldn't be here today because Brian has started a new job in what else? Logistics. So we're thankful for the Johnson family there. And I wish Brian all the best in his new adventures. And I want to acknowledge our daughter and son in Indianapolis, Dawn and Dustin, and their families. They do so much for us out there. And now back here in the room, I want to acknowledge the McNamara side of this crazy family. My brother Jay, thanks for being here from Richmond. It's always good to see you, and I appreciate all of your support, you and your family support. And finally, Uncle Bill McNamara, who's here from California. An unwavering sense of support and humor for our family every single day. We never know what we're going to get, but thank you for that and keeping us on the edge of our seats for so long. And when I was in uniform, It was always my goal to try and minimize the use of the word I and maximize the use of the word we, together, and team, and those kinds of things. And it might be a little bit more challenging on this type of an occasion to do that, but in no situation is that more warranted than today. Because this is not about me. It is about you and all the great people that I was so fortunate to work with, for, and beside. And it's hard to believe that it's been 4 years since I retired. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, 4 years ago when I was on this stage, never in my wildest imagination did I ever think I'd be back for something like this. And when my phone rang a few weeks ago and I saw Michelle Skubik on the caller ID, I have to tell you I was a little worried. Because I knew she was going to say, what the heck were you thinking when you did fill in the blank? Or slight chance that the $1,200 coffee cup would have reared its ugly head again, and she needed some notes. But when she broke the news to me and I had the sigh of relief that it wasn't any of those types of things, I was literally speechless. I had no idea what to say. And it took me a few minutes, right? It took me a few minutes to get my head around this. And I said, you know, Admiral, when you're caught up in the vortex of day-to-day work, focusing your energy and time on some really difficult challenges, you sometimes wonder if you're making a difference at all. And your phone call gave me the answer to that question. So I say thank you. And since that call, there's been a lot of reflection over my time in uniform, and I, to this day, I still cannot think of a single reason why I should be on this stage with all of you and in front of all of you. But I know who deserves it, and it's the men and women in this room and 27,000 people of this agency scattered across the globe. It's all of that hard work that gets done every single day that we need to be thankful for. So I'm going to do what I did then and tell you about my contribution. My contribution when I was in uniform and today is to work really hard to understand what all of you do for us so I can go tell your story with credibility. And then come back and say thank you for what you've done. That's heartfelt and it is real. I say thanks to all those buyers in our hardware operations, to all the engineers, to all the analysts who cringed whenever they saw me coming because they knew I was going to ask the question, how hard would it be to fill in the blank? All of our retail teams at our depots and arsenals, our disposition and distribution teams and energy teams across the globe, thank you for what you do. And to the great team of teams here at the headquarters that did all the hard work to, again, make me smart enough to go tell the story, thank you. I was fortunate to tell a great story, and you all continue to write that. And there was a great team that was really close to me that helped me along the way in my front offices and on the staffs. And I will need to read a few names, Mr. Daly, but I'll go quick. Jason, Michelle, Cody, Frank, Charlie, Annette, Kathy, Emily, Steve, Mike, Guy, Kristen, Matt, Tony, Gretchen, Kathy, Floyd, Steve, Teresa, Gil, and many, many more. All of you kept me motivated on my worst day and undeniably faced tougher challenges today than I did then. And finally, we were fortunate to have great leadership in General Bush, Admiral Harnachek, General Williams, Mr. Case, and Mr. Scott. Each of those leaders gave us guidance and then got out of the way so we could do what needed to be done and deliver on their vision. They had vision that I wish I had, and they worked some really, really big challenges. Think about this. Standing up support to a nuclear enterprise that was hemorrhaging, delivering $13 billion in savings to our nation when they needed it, when we needed it, and a relentless focus on warfighter support in the face of declining resources. Those are big tasks, and this great team made them successful. You all are the ones that did that, and you did it every day with two key things in mind: effectiveness and efficiency for those we serve. So the story today is one of thanks, and how thankful I am to have had a small hand in writing the history of this great agency. But I'm most optimistic about the history that's still in work that each of you are writing today. So as you write that story, please know how much your work is appreciated, how meaningful it is, and most of all, how much you make a difference to soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, guardians, and a host of others who have no idea the complexity that it takes to get this job done. To my fellow inductees, thank you for all you've done to write the history of this great agency. I am humbled and honored to share the stage with you. Thanks for letting me be here with you. Thanks again to my family and my friends, and thank you for DLA for what you do for our great nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our final inductee for the Hall of Fame class of 2023, Mr. John Kurtz. Mr. Kurtz was the director of DLA Distribution Finance from 2006 to 2016. He established DLA Distribution as the financial proponent for DoD and transformed it into an efficient and effective commercial foundation for the warfighter. He led DLA Distribution's financial transformation and empowered his workforce for maximum efficiency and effectiveness. He enabled DLA Distribution to manage more than 10,000 employees with an $87 billion budget and 54 million square feet of storage facilities worldwide. He improved service standards for DLA Distribution and its customers. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Kurtz.
I too would like to thank Vice Admiral Skubik and the DLA leadership team for hosting today's ceremony and for taking time out of your busy schedules to recognize the Hall of Fame inductees for their past accomplishments. This is just a fantastic honor, and I'm extremely grateful to be recognized as a member of this year's Hall of Fame class. In thinking about my remarks for this ceremony, I look back to some comments that I made at the time of my retirement, and I realized that even now, when I think back about DLA and the opportunities that were provided to me during my career, I still feel the same. If I could sum up my feelings about my career with DLA, I would simply say gratitude. I spent my entire career working for DLA, and I can honestly say I never once desired to leave for so-called greener pastures. I can't imagine working for an agency more dedicated to the care, well-being, and training of its workforce. I remain convinced there is none other like DLA. During my years with the agency, I was privileged to have many mentors that helped me develop and succeed in my career. Like others, I won't even try to name them all. I stopped counting at a dozen Hall of Fame members who I have worked for over the years, and there were many others too that were just incredibly helpful to me. I'm so grateful that I was able to work with and learn from these individuals. I'll always be grateful to them for their help, and I'm beyond thrilled to join them here today. In particular, I would like to personally acknowledge the former J8 director, Mr. Tony Palaio, and the DLA Distribution Deputy Commander, Mr. Perry Knight, for their support and encouragement over the years. The advice and counsel that I received from these two gentlemen, along with many others, helped me learn and grow and prepare me for future assignments. In keeping with my theme of gratitude, I will be forever grateful for the opportunities to participate in a number of truly transformational initiatives during my career. It was both challenging and rewarding to work on efforts such as public-private competitions, depot consolidations under the defense management reviews, planning and implementing the stand-up of new distribution centers, serving on human capital task forces aimed at developing future financial leaders, and developing new and improved pricing methodologies. There were just so many opportunities to participate in initiatives that truly seem to matter, and for that I will always be grateful. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Denise. She's here with me today. She's been with me for over 41 years now. As a fellow career DLA employee, she understood the landscape and the sacrifices that were needed in order to be successful at supporting the warfighter. She never failed to encourage or support me, and for that I am forever grateful too. So in closing, I would just like to say a sincere thank you. This is a tremendous honor, and I'm very grateful to be here today.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask all of our 2023 inductees to please join Vice Admiral Skubic and Command Sergeant Major O'Neill for a group photo.
Something different, I'm going to take a picture from behind, so don't anybody move. So it all works. Looks good, great, excellent. Keep smiles going, you guys. Good, great, excellent. Nice, here we go. Up, didn't like that. One more time, everybody. Looks good. Thank you.
Please join me one more time in congratulating this year's Hall of Fame class in 2023.